In today's episode of the Unlocked podcast, we're going to be talking all about OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. We're going to do a deep dive into this topic and how to utilize this form of fasting to reach your body and health goals. We're going to talk about what is OMAD, how OMAD works, benefits of OMAD, how to make OMAD easier, should you do OMAD every day, how soon will you see results from OMAD, and much more. I've also put chapters in this episode below so you can fast forward to different sections, or if you want to come back and rewatch anything, it's right there for you. Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ashley Salvatore. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because I'm going to have new podcast episodes coming to you to unlock your fullest potential and achieve your best self right here on this channel. Today we are talking about fasting, and specifically a fasting protocol and schedule that is very close to my heart because it has literally changed everything for me. I not only lost 24 pounds of stuck on weight that literally felt like it was not going anywhere, and I've adopted this new lifestyle. I do OMAD every single day. I think I hit 140 days or something like that. OMAD, and today we are going to talk about all the things OMAD. I'm going to unlock a lot of different topics for you with this, and I'm going to help you get started on this protocol if it is something that seems right for you. Now, OMAD may seem extreme to some people, and for other people like me, it might seem like a completely impossible goal to even consider eating 1 meal a day for even one day, let alone doing it into a regular fasting protocol. Now, if you're not familiar with my story and who I am, I have been fasting for years. I actually started fasting back in 2014. I started a 16 8-hour fast after learning about the benefits of loose skin and fasting. I decided to give it a shot because I just had my second baby. That was my first introduction into fasting, and from there I have been fasting at least 16 hours a day every day since. Now, over the years, I have done different dietary lifestyles. Now, the cool thing with OMAD, 1 meal a day, is it's very flexible. You can do it 1 day a week. You can do it 3 days a week. You can do it every other day, or you can do it every day. Now, I've actually adopted it into my lifestyle, doing it every day, which seems super crazy, but I will share with you guys today how I've done that as well as the results that I've seen from doing that. And I'm going to share with you some of the research that I've done as well as some of my own personal experience and things that have helped me along the way. First things first, what is OMAD? OMAD stands for 1 meal a day. So if you can imagine, if you are eating right now 3 meals a day plus snacks in between, and you literally cut out 2 of those meals and the snacks, you are going to start running on your body fat for fuel. At the end of the day, to lose body fat, you need a specific scenario to be happening within our body. We need to be burning, our body needs to be burning more calories than we are taking in consuming. Now, if we are taking in and consuming more calories than we're burning, we're going to gain weight, obviously. And if we are taking in the same amount of calories we are burning, we will maintain weight. Now, our body wants to keep a specific level of homeostasis. It wants to keep you the same. So it's going to do everything that it can to do this, to keep you into a balanced rhythm. Now, when you exercise, and let's say you go to the gym and you burn 500 calories in the gym, typically what happens is you end up eating more calories because of the exercise. Now, tell me if this is something that's ever happened to you. Because you did those 500 calories in the gym, all of a sudden you say, well, I worked out today, so I can have that extra whatever it is. I can have that extra glass of wine. I can have that extra serving of dinner or whatever. It ends up becoming like a crutch. Or there's another scenario where because you work out, you're now having after workout shakes, or you're consuming something before your workout because of the intense workout. Now, what the studies have shown is that when you work out, you actually will eat more calories to make up for the calories burned as a way for your body to keep that that homeostasis, to keep the balance. Now, let's just look at another scenario. Now, what if instead of working out for 500 calories, you simply just didn't eat the breakfast? That would be around 500 calories. In that scenario, if you're eating 500 calories and then you're working out for 500 calories, that's exactly the same as just skipping breakfast. Now, in my mind, there are some other benefits to working out other than just weight loss. However, if your goal is weight loss, working out is a great thing to add on as a layer. But there are ways to do this and work smarter, not necessarily harder. And a lot of times when we're working out, especially as women, it can raise our cortisol and it can create different scenarios. Now, this is what I like to think about exercise. I like to think of it as a way to boost your endorphins to make you feel good, as well as for overall health. And studies actually do show that exercise will help you maintain your results from weight loss. However, it does not show any studies that exercise actually contributes to more weight loss. Actually, people who work out and people who don't work out, as long as the calories that they consume is creating a deficit, they will lose the same amount of weight. So I'm using this as an example because a lot of times people will get into the routine to lose weight and they will say, okay, I'm going to work out. I'm going to go to the gym every day. And then what happens is they end up eating just those exact amount of calories that you burned in the gym. You're eating those calories extra in your day without even realizing it, like a bite here, a bite there. It ends up adding up. So from this idea of, okay, now we skipped breakfast and now we are just having lunch and dinner and maybe snacks in between, but we're not trying to consume the amount of calories that we would normally eat in our breakfast. We're not adding that on to lunch. We're not adding that on to dinner. We're just eating our normal lunch and our normal dinner. Now we are slashing 500 calories a day from what our body is used to eating. Now over time, that's going to lead to fat loss, as we know, right? But your body is going to eventually adapt to that. Just like any form of calorie restriction, your body is eventually going to start adapting. Now, that is the very first step into OMAD, would be to just start narrowing your eating window. Okay, so if you've never fasted before, I would suggest start skipping breakfast. Focus on a 16 8-hour fast to begin. And that is typically what most people do. So they will do a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour eating window. They're not eating that entire time in the 8 hours. They are simply eating lunch and dinner and maybe a snack in between. And within that time frame, it equals about 8 hours. And so this would be considered 2MAD if you're doing 2 meals in that scenario. And then when you want to eliminate your third meal, now typically this is a good idea once you hit a plateau with just eliminating that first meal. Now you hit a plateau and you start maintaining your loss, and then you're like, okay, I think this is my time to do OMAD. And this is what's cool. You could actually do like a 30-day OMAD and just plan on 30 days. You can do anything for 30 days, right? And that's what I did that actually got me into this. Is I was like, I'm going to focus on 30 days. I saw this girl online do 30 days of OMAD, and I was like, wow, if I could do 30 days of OMAD, and this is before I had ever thought that I could even do OMAD one day, if I could do 30 days of eating just one meal a day, imagine what would happen to my body composition. Imagine what would happen to my gut issues and all of the things I had previously been experiencing with my own inflammation and issues that I had been dealing with for years. Imagine that. And so I decided to say, you know what? I can do anything for 30 days. I know enough about fasting to know that I can do 30 days of fasting. I can do 30 days of OMAD, 1 meal a day, and I will get to the end of those 30 days, and then I will reevaluate what I want to do. I will look at my results, I will see what the experience was, and I'll figure it out from there. So anyone getting into this, that's what I would suggest you do. Set a small goal. You don't have to say, you know what, I'm going to do OMAD forever. You don't have to say that. And it's not good to do that anyway. It's good to vary it up. It's good to change things up. It's also good to have something called a diet break, which means you would go about 4 to 6 weeks on your calorie restriction, which OMAD, and we'll talk about that here in this podcast episode, but calorie restriction works, but can be very difficult for many people, especially if you're eating multiple meals a day, because you're going to feel like you're on a diet. Now, OMAD is not a diet. You can eat whatever you want with OMAD. That means if you like Mediterranean, you can eat Mediterranean. If you like the keto diet, you can do the keto diet. If you like a food flexibility lifestyle and want to eat that balanced lifestyle of whatever you want, you can do that as well. And that's what's so cool about OMAD. It gives you that flexibility that you would not otherwise have if you were doing a traditional diet. With that, knowing that you can eat whatever you want, and it's not about what you eat, it's more about when you eat, and it's just about narrowing that eating window to help you achieve that calorie restriction. Because I'm telling you, when you eat one meal and you allow yourself to eat until you're full, you are going to be so satisfied, and it's going to be very difficult to overeat with that one meal. It doesn't mean it can't happen. It definitely can. And I want you to be mindful of that while you're doing this with the goal of fat loss, right? We don't want to be overeating, and we don't want to be binging, and we don't want to be just stuffing ourselves, right? So with OMAD, if you're like, you know what, I want to do this, I want to try this, start with one day. Try it one day, eliminate dinner, eliminate breakfast, just have lunch. That seems to be the most successful window, is right in the middle of the day, because what happens is you wake up and it's like, okay, I just have to make it till 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. or noon before I'm going to break my fast. And then after that, you should eat until you're satisfied and know that you're eating enough food. For me, I try to stay within like around 1,300 to 1,600 calories within that meal. And you don't necessarily have to count, but for me, I like to count while I'm focusing on fat loss, because I want to know that I'm in a calorie restricted state for sure. And so I will count in an app. I'll just track it. I'm not measuring things out. It's mostly just eyeball. But what you do is you make it your goal to just try that one day. Now, the first day, it might feel difficult. You're probably going to be hungry, especially if you're used to having meals within specific hours, because the way our body works is we release hunger hormones at the times when our body is used to eating. So if you're used to eating breakfast and you're used to eating dinner, your body's going to release ghrelin at those times. And it's like your body's primed to start getting the digestive juices flowing to get the food that normally comes at that time prepared to start digesting it. And so when that food doesn't come, you are going to experience a little bit of hunger, but this lasts for like 3 days. So if you're going to do OMAD, it works very well to do it into a consistent pattern, just so that you train your hormones to be able to make it easier for you. For the people who do it one time a week, typically they will probably find it more difficult, because their body's not trained to realize that, wait, I got everything I needed within this one meal, or this is going to be my one meal. And so from the scenario I mentioned to you guys earlier about working out, now let's do it in the scenario of OMAD. And when you consume your one meal, you're not going to be trying to eat like stuff yourself full of like over 2,000 calories in one meal. And I'm talking specifically for the women here. A man might be eating that high calories, but if your goal is weight loss, fat loss, then you're focusing on the calorie restriction, let's just say you're eating 1,300 calories in that meal, which is very easy to do in a way that you're not going to feel overly stuffed, and you're not going to be like binge eating and trying to be like, oh my gosh, I need to eat so many different things to get it all in, because remember, you're going to have another meal the next day, okay? So keep that in your mind and keep telling yourself, like, I can do anything for whatever it is, 5 days, 30 days, whatever the goal is that you're focusing on. So a 1,300 calorie meal for me is pretty large, and I really can have whatever I want. And we're talking French fries, sandwich, all of these different things. Now, you know your body. And for me, I do not feel hungry if I have those extra carbs or sugar or whatever it is, as long as I have protein within that meal. So as long as I'm making sure I'm getting chicken or whatever the protein is for the meal, in there, then I'm fine. And typically I eat around 70 to 100 grams of protein a day with my one meal without really having to try very hard. And so this is something that kind of comes with time and practice. Probably when you first begin OMAD, you're probably going to be like, you get to your one meal and then it's like, okay, I'm going to have an appetizer, I'm going to have a main course, and I'm going to have a dessert. And that's okay. You kind of lean into it until eventually you get into this pattern where it's like, I'm not going to die if I'm just having a normal size meal here. And I also want to mention something. A lot of times people are afraid that they're going to eat too little. And this is the thing. A lot of people out there who are fitness experts and whoever they are do a very good job at pumping fear into people as far as if you eat, if you're not eating enough calories, you're going to do damage to your metabolism and then you're going to gain all the weight back. But I just want to put something into perspective for you guys. I actually heard something on another podcast last week. It was Thomas DeLauer actually, and he was talking about why we shouldn't be afraid of losing too much weight too quickly. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things because even I have thought like, okay, I need to eat some more. But the reality is if you are not nutrient deficient and you're getting the nutrients you need from your food, the calorie content of that food doesn't really matter as much. And the thing is, if you are motivated and you're in a state of like intense, hardcore motivation, then you should capitalize on that. And if you are losing weight quickly, which I lost my first 30 days of OMAD, I lost 15 pounds. That's a lot of weight. And people were telling me, you're losing weight too quickly. You're just going to gain it all back. That's what they were telling me, right? But the studies actually show that no matter how quickly you lose the weight, the percentage of people who gain the weight back is the same. So someone who loses weight over 5 years, the same amount of weight, and that same person who loses it within 6 months has the exact same percentage of gaining the weight back. Okay, so it really doesn't matter how quickly you lose the weight, and actually it might be motivational for you to lose the weight quicker, which it is for me. And so if you are full, if you're feeling good, you got your protein in, I'm not going to force feed you more calories just to hit a number, okay? I like the idea of breaking up with the diet culture, with breaking up with diet rules, and just following your body's lead. Some days you're going to eat less, some days you're going to eat more, and this is just a natural fluctuation, right? So this is what happens with our bodies naturally. Satiety in general. We are hungrier on some days than we are other days, and that's okay. So this is just what I've learned over months and months and months and months of doing OMAD. This has also been the easiest it's ever been for me to maintain my results, even though I lost the weight quickly. In total, I lost 24 pounds. Now, I just got back from vacation. I spent 10 days in the Florida Keys, and this is another thing that I think is a helpful topic with OMAD because people will say, well, what do you do with social events? What do you do with vacations? You take a diet break is the answer. You don't count your calories and you don't focus on the fasting. You just eat normally. You try not to overeat. However, I know I was drinking way too much alcohol on this trip, and I was also eating way too much food on this trip. And I saw that on the scale, but I'm not worried about it because now coming back to my routine, in the past, I would gain weight on vacation and then I would work so hard to lose weight, but I would never get past a baseline. In this scenario, I get into my routine of it and I focus on specific things for fat loss, and I get back into my routine of what makes me feel my best, and I just follow that and I get back into OMAD. Now, you're either fasting or you're not. There's no going on or off a diet. And so right now, coming back from vacation, a diet break, it helps, with the metabolic rate. It helps with all of that, especially if you've been in calorie restriction for a while, so that now my body, hopefully that raised my metabolic rate up. And now my body, it tries to create that homeostasis. That's what it wants to do. So it would have raised my metabolic rate. And now coming back into a restriction, it should be easier for me now to not only just lose whatever excess bloating, water weight, all of that came from this trip, but then any excess fat that I might have gained. But now moving forward with OMAD, it's going to then push me beyond my greatest results, hopefully to my ultimate results. I feel really good. And on my trip, I felt great. So that leads me to the next thing, which is alcohol. So alcohol is one of those things that I have found makes fasting very, very difficult. And it makes losing weight very, very difficult. It causes you to lose inhibitions. It causes you to eat more. And it causes you just to, it makes it very difficult to have a very short eating window because you want to drink more. And when you're drinking alcohol, you are not in a fasted state. So when I'm focusing on fat loss, I decide to completely eliminate the alcohol. And that works the best for me, but you have to find what works best for you. I can easily fast for 23 hours a day and eat within a 1 hour eating window, which is the OMAD gold standard of time when I don't drink alcohol. If I'm drinking alcohol in that one meal, it's impacting things. Alcohol is a toxin. I'm not going to be absorbing my food correctly like I should be. And it's just not ideal. So, but when I do drink alcohol, then I end up with more like a 6 hour eating window typically. Now, the other suggestion that I have for anyone getting started on OMAD is instead of focusing on a 1 hour eating window and a 23-hour fasted window to begin, you can actually focus on a 20-hour fasted window and or a 21-hour fasted window, and then do like a 3 to 4 hour eating window and treat it like multiple courses, like I mentioned before. That seems to be very helpful for beginners. And I did this myself in the beginning before I took on the 30-day challenge of OMAD. I started OMAD with just 20 hours fasted, 3 to 4 hours eating window, and that worked very well for me. It was one main meal, but then I had like an appetizer and a dessert sort of deal, okay? This was also before I started tracking calories. Once I started tracking my calories, and then I was like, you know what? The 1 hour eating window really does help me stay within 1,300 calories without having to restrict my food too much. Then that was when I was like, I'm going for a 30-day. I'm going to track this. I'm going to write it down every day. I'm going to keep it together. And I will actually put a link down below for the exact sheet that I created, that I printed out, and I was checking off and I was writing in like everything that I was eating just to document it, to see how it would turn out for my first 30 days. Now, what's great is I actually got an average of that. So I lost, the 15 pounds, and I found my average calories was 1,300, 500, like right around there per day. So now I know exactly what my target should be when my goal is fat loss. Now, the next thing I did with OMAD was I used specific tools. Now, with fasting, you don't necessarily need to supplement with anything additional other than water and sometimes electrolytes if you feel like adding in some electrolytes. But I use specific tools to help me make it these longer distances of fasting, and also to make fasting easier and to boost the appetite and hunger control. So my exact strategy of what I did while focusing on fat loss, especially within those first 30 days, is every single day I did the exact same thing. 1 hour before breaking my fast, I had a ketone-infused protein shake, shaken with ice and water, and I had that to ease me back into my eating window. Now, this product is actually created to be consumed fasted, so technically you're getting the benefits continued on of the fast, even though you may be breaking your fast an hour early. But in my mind, I'm staying fasted. So I'm keeping my fasted window going. What I did was I would do that. I would drink that 1 hour before my meal, and then I would have my meal, and I would track everything in an app to make sure I'm staying in a calorie deficit. And then at the beginning of my next fast, I would have a decaf ketone, and I would mix that with my probiotics and prebiotics, which I have a specific one that I have made specifically for my body. based on microbiome testing that I had done for myself. Now, this is a totally different topic, and we are actually going to talk about the microbiome in next week's episode of the podcast. So stay tuned for that. The main thing is I'm using the decaf ketones about 2 hours after my meal. I'm drinking that with ice and water to help prime my next fast, because the most difficult time to get through fasting for most people, and especially for me, is nighttime, when you are used to eating large meals. My largest meal of the day used to be dinner, and now it's lunch because I'm focusing on this early time restricted eating pattern. So with eliminating dinner, I actually cut about 1,500 extra calories out of my day. Now, I could never burn 1,500 calories at the gym. So this is the equivalent of me burning an extra 1,500 calories at the gym if I was just eating my normal pattern, breakfast, or not breakfast because I was already skipping breakfast, but just eliminating dinner because I was having lunch and dinner every day. So that's where we get back to the workouts, right? Working out is great, and I do work out. But with OMAD, you just want to be focusing on your eating window. And if you struggle to stick to that eating window, deploying tools like ketones while you're fasted. Remember, you do not have to follow the keto diet to use ketones. I don't. And I think that's one big misconception people have. They think ketones are made for the keto diet. It is not. It's actually the opposite. Ketones are beneficial for people who especially don't do the keto diet, because it gives you the benefits of a carb-restricted lifestyle, as far as you're going to experience the appetite control, the hunger control, and all of that, the energy, the mental clarity, without actually having to restrict those carbohydrates. Because carbohydrates, especially when you're doing these longer fasts, are extremely beneficial. Your brain can only utilize 50% ketones. The other 50% has to come from carbs. And if you're not eating carbs, what's going to happen is your body's going to take the protein that you are eating and it's going to convert it into glucose for your brain, which is called gluconeogenesis. And if you're eating one meal a day, you're not going to be eating that much protein in general. And so you really don't want to use that protein to turn it into glucose for your brain. It just makes more sense to eat a balanced lifestyle. And while with OMAD, you can eat whatever you want, this is what led me to just eating a balanced food flexibility lifestyle, abandoning diets, and just eating whatever I want as long as I make sure I'm eating protein with that meal, and not restricting macros in any way. Now, the reason fasting and time-restricted eating works so well is because once you train your body to go these longer distances without food, it becomes extremely easy to just to do it. You don't feel hungry anymore. And it heals your gut. It feels incredible. Now, some of the benefits of OMAD, besides just the calorie restriction, which does lead to the weight loss, the reduced weight, but also OMAD's going to boost your productivity, because during those long hours when you are fasted, you should be extremely productive because you have those higher level of ketones that your body is producing naturally, even if you are consuming carbs in that one meal. And the long stretch of time without any food allows your glucose to drop, and that's going to allow your insulin to drop as well. Now, during your fasted state, there's only a couple of things that I will consume within my fasted window. First is black coffee, and I switched away from the creams in my coffee because those things activated my digestive system and would make me hungry. So I do black coffee, but I do it iced, because iced coffee, that's black, is not as bitter. And you can even cut it with more water to just make it diluted. I drink my coffee for the energy boost of the coffee, not for the experience of drinking coffee. Now, this brings me to a very important piece of this whole thing. I know it's going to be tempting when you first start OMAD to literally stuff yourself, but you're not going to feel good the rest of the night, and you're going to feel tired, and you're not going to be productive later in the day. And I know this because I have done that. I've tried, eating my maintenance level of calories within one meal, and it's like you get so stuffed you can't do anything the rest of the day. So that is something that you kind of learn over time through doing this, and you realize I will eat again. This is not my last meal. This is not my last supper. With the increased boost in productivity, the increased focus, that's going to come when you just eat a normal sized meal for your meal and you stop eating when you're full. And then you open up your fasted window. And this is where it makes it so easy with the calorie restriction, because once your window is closed, it's closed. It's done. There's no question of, am I hungry? Should I eat this? Should I eat that? It's just done. And it makes it so easy. There's very little planning involved here. You just open and close your window. Now, I've also found that it's definitely improved my gut health, because when you give your body a long stretch of time when you're not eating anything, it allows your gut to heal. And this is a very good way for your good gut bugs to flourish and to kind of starve out your bad gut bugs. And so over time, it's going to get easier and easier. Fasting these long durations also improves the autophagy. It promotes cellular regeneration. Who shouldn't fast with OMAD? If you're pregnant, if you're nursing, if you're elderly, if you have an eating disorder or have had an eating disorder, it's probably not a good idea. And if you're under the age of 18, anyone who's on any sort of medication, really before you start any type of dietary lifestyle like this, you should run it by a doctor. There's really only two main rules of OMAD. Eat one meal a day, no grazing, no snacking, ideally 23 hours fasted with a 1 hour eating window. And rule number 2 is try to stick to the same schedule daily. Now, the reason you want to stick to the same schedule daily is because of training your hormones. When, like I mentioned earlier, when you go without eating for 3 days, your body gets the picture and it will stop releasing those hunger hormones. So eventually it becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. If you utilize tools like ketones in your fasted window, this is also going to help you train those hormones quicker, and it will make it much easier for you. I did create a package and a kit specifically for those who want to do exactly what I'm doing with the protein-infused ketone an hour before breaking your fast, easing you back into your eating window, and then the nat ketone at the beginning of your fasted window. Or you can even put these things at places where you normally have meals when you feel hungry. If you start feeling hungry, utilize those tools at that time. I created that for you, and I do have a discount code in the description below, and you can get 10% off your order on that. So check that out if you want help getting started in this lifestyle. This tool can definitely help you, and this Fast Start Kit is created basically to make it easy for you. Now, there's also another layer if you're like, wait, I actually need more support than just a protein-infused ketone and a ketone in the afternoon. There is another kit called the iFast kit, and this is going to give you electrolytes. It's going to give you DNA repair capsules that you take in the morning and at night. And it's going to give you multiple shakes, ketone-infused shakes to be using throughout the day, and then you're going to have the one main meal. So that's an option as well. I'll put the link for that in the description too. Do you need to count calories with OMAD? You do not. And that's one of the best parts about OMAD, is that it is so flexible, because it's going to be extremely difficult for you to overeat with OMAD, especially as you start doing it regularly. And but for many people, they actually like to have a little bit of that control, at least at first, just to make sure that they're in that calorie deficit. So it's really optional for you. I like to count calories while doing OMAD, while my goal is fat loss, because I want to make sure that I'm going to lose the fat. But if you're looking for a lifestyle that allows you that freedom to not have to count calories and to eat whatever you want, and eating whatever you want does give you that carrot at the end of the stick, right? Like, it's like, okay, I'm going through these longer fasted durations, but at the end of the day, I can eat whatever I want. I have complete food freedom, right? It's that yin and that yang. You're feasting and you're fasting. You're giving your body long durations of time where you're dropping insulin, and that drop in insulin is allowing you to tap into your stored body fat for fuel, and you can be at a calorie deficit without impacting your metabolism in a negative way by utilizing the fasting in combo with the calorie restriction. So back to, should you worry about losing weight too fast? I think it's extremely beneficial to capitalize on the times when you are motivated the most. And I wouldn't be too strict with it, and I wouldn't worry about eating too few calories. I want you to make sure that you are getting nutrition that you need so you do not become malnutrition. We want to make sure that is the key, right? We want to make sure we are getting a diverse variety of different types of food. It is very helpful to eat foods that are beneficial for your microbiome, and everybody has a different microbiome. And again, we will be talking about that in next week's episode, how to do that. Basically, you can, as long as you are getting the protein that you need and you're getting the nutrition that you need and you're following your body's lead, I wouldn't worry about it too much. And that's where counting calories can sometimes lead you actually to eat a little bit more, because you might be like, well, I only had like 1,000 calories today, but I'm full, but I should eat more because that's too low. And, your body's going to tell you, right? So if you eat something and then you go into your next 23-hour fast and you do feel hungry, that especially like in the morning time, that's probably a sign that whatever you ate, you need to eat a little bit more, right? And so that's how we can like feel our body out and follow our body's lead. The next big question I get all the time is, when is the best time to eat? And this is what I would tell you. The best time for you to have your meal is your most social meal of the day. It's very difficult for you to make your meal a time when you have isolation and then you're going to be social and then you can't eat during that social meal. So if that meal for you is dinner with your family, then keep having dinner with your family. But a lot of times people who do OMAD and do it every day find that having your OMAD meal in the afternoon is actually the easiest. So you want to do what works best for you. So if nighttime you find it's too hard to go all day from the time you wake up until like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., if that's too long of a duration and you feel like you need something in the middle of the afternoon, then probably an afternoon fast or breaking your window in the afternoon would be beneficial for you and would be the best option. That's what I found for me. And actually, because we save so much money on not eating multiple meals a day and only having one meal a day and not drinking alcohol too in combo with that, I'm saving so much money. We now go to lunch every day. My husband and I, we go to lunch every day as a date lunch. Our kids are in school. We both work from home. So we go to lunch and this is our date. And we can have that flexibility to just be able to spend more money a day on something like that. And then I also get the flexibility of eating whatever the heck I want at restaurants every day. And this was like my dream. It was like one of those things that I manifested in my life. I love going to lunch with my husband. It was like one of those things. And it happened. And I also put it out there to the universe. I wanted to be able to eat whatever I want and reach my body goals. And that's where OMAD came into my life. You just got to find what works best for you. Now, there are some studies that show eating earlier in the day is beneficial. There's nothing like dramatic though. It's not like you're going to lose a tremendous amount more weight because you ate earlier in the day than later, but you do want to be considerate of your circadian rhythms. I have read some things that say that it's better for you to eat during light hours of the day after the sun goes down. Typically, that's when our body is just programmed to start shutting down and getting ready for the night. I love going to bed with an empty stomach, giving myself all of that time to digest the food. So when I go to bed, my body can just focus on regenerating my body. I don't feel hungry at all. I don't have hunger pains at all, but that's because I've been doing this long enough that my body is programmed to that, right? And also drinking plenty of water will help you with the hunger too. If you start feeling hungry, sometimes that's actually a sign of dehydration. So just drink more water. Should you do OMAD every day? I found it's much easier to do OMAD every day. And also it becomes addicting. I'll be honest, it actually does become addicting doing fasting for like this every single day because you feel so good. And when you feel good, you just want to keep doing what makes you feel good. And so OMAD is one of those things where you feel the gut healing benefit so intense and you just start feeling incredible. So you want to do it every day. And that's okay. You can do it every day. But if you start having any sort of negative side effects, that would be your signal to start cycling in days where you're not fasting. I also like to deploy the diet breaks, as I mentioned, where I'll go 4, 5, or 6 weeks on OMAD, and then I'll take an entire week off OMAD, off calorie restriction, eat at maintenance level, and then get back to it, right? This is almost like a reset. It's very helpful to do that. There are some experts, fasting experts out there that will tell you to be varying your fast, to not do OMAD every day, to only do OMAD once a day. None of this is based on any sort of research or any sort of studies or anything concrete. This is just based on opinion of these people. And so take that as a grain of salt. That's how I took it. And I was like, you know what? It's actually best for me to do OMAD every day. I have no changes in my monthly cycle. Everything is normal. So my monthly cycle is always on time, always normal, always great. If I lost my monthly cycle, that would probably be a sign that I should pull back on the fasting. You just got to follow your body's lead. Now, other experts will tell you to be fasting different times within your your monthly cycle, right? Like different hours during different times and whatever. And that's great if that's what you want to do. You've got to find what works best for you. I found it's easier for me. I have less planning. I have less thinking what to do, and my body loves it. And so I just do what my body loves. And that's really how you can tell, should you do something every day? Do you feel good? If you're feeling good, do it. If you don't feel good, don't do it. And that is the barometer. Like, that is what you should follow. It doesn't matter what someone else is telling you. You need to follow what feels good for you. Now, what are some side effects that you might experience with OMAD? Very first one, when someone first gets into this, is mood swings. So that is a thing. You definitely can have mood swings. I think I did in the beginning, but maybe it lasted a very short time. But I also drank the ketones, and ketones have mood benefits. So I think that counteracted that a lot. I don't find that I have any issues with mood, but I've heard that can be an issue. Like, you can get hangry where you're not really hungry, but like everything sets you off. That does not happen with me, but I've seen that happen with people. And again, it could be because I'm consuming those ketones while fasting. Lack of concentration. If you are overeating within your one meal, you're going to probably feel that the hours after you eat. If you're new to fasting, you might feel that, like, it might be distracting to you. But when you get into the routine of it, that shouldn't be an issue at all. The other thing is tired after eating too much. Like I mentioned before, you don't want to be binge eating with this one meal, and you shouldn't feel the urge to binge eat either. Because just remember, this is not your only meal of your life. It's just the only meal today. You're going to eat again tomorrow. And that's the one cool thing. It's not like we're going days and days and days and days without food, and then we're eating, and it's literally you eat dinner every day, you eat lunch every day, or you eat breakfast every day, and then you're going to reach your goals. And when you get to your goal, you can always then split your meal into 2 meals. But remember, you've got to stay at a calorie balance. So you have to eat at maintenance level calories if you're then doing 2 meals. You cannot have 1,300 calories a day to lose weight with one meal, and then start having another 1,300 calories in a second meal, and then expect to maintain that loss. You are then doubling your calories. You're going to gain weight back. You need to then take that 1,300 calories, bump it up to maintenance, which is probably around 1,600 to 1,800 calories for most people, and you're going to then split that into 2 meals, okay? And then you're going to work on that as your maintenance level. If you go over and you gain some weight back, you just simply go back to one meal, and you just simply go back to what you were doing. You reset things, and then you go from there. It's very, very, very simple. There's no falling on and off track of this lifestyle. It's not a diet that you now cheated on. You don't have to fast all the time, and you can not fast on specific days. There might be days where socially something is going on. You get a breakfast with someone, you got a lunch with someone, you got something happening. You don't have to fast that day. Just continue on with your daily routine the next day. How soon do you see results with OMAD? Extremely fast. You're going to feel it the very first day. The first 5 days, you should definitely notice it on the scale. And then the first 10 days, you could have dramatic results. As I mentioned before, I lost 15 pounds the first 30 days, and 10 of those pounds came the first 2 weeks. So just know it's extremely motivating, and it will keep you on track. It will give you that boost to keep going because you will see results quickly. You're going to lose the bloat, the inflammation, the swelling, the water weight first, but then you're going to tap into fat, body fat. You're going to start noticing your clothes fitting differently. And then once you lose the weight, it all of a sudden it's different. There's no swings. There's no like big weight shifts and swings with this. Once you lose the weight and you adopt it kind of into a lifestyle, and either you're doing 2 meals or you're doing 1 meal, as long as the calories are equated, you're going to be able to maintain that loss, right? Now let's get into some tips to make fasting easier as we land this plane, okay? So very first thing, set a designated time and stick to it. For many reasons, it's much easier when you make it a routine and your body gets used to that routine. It knows when the food is coming. It's going to start the digestive process before you start eating. And then you eat, and then it knows not to release those hunger hormones later at night because it knows that there will be no food the rest of the night. It like literally puts your gut bugs to bed. Your digestive system gets put to bed. So that's what you want. Another thing that can help you is going to bed early. I started going to bed at like 8 p.m. because I wasn't eating dinner. I'm like, okay, I'm not hanging around to stay up late and like feel like I need to eat something. I'm just going to go to bed. And so I started going to bed at like 8 o'clock every single night. And I'm getting so much restorative sleep. I'm sleeping the normal amount of time, 8 hours a night, 9 hours a night sometimes. And it's great. And so going to bed early can definitely help you. Also, staying busy can help you because if you're bored, a lot of times we just eat because we're bored. There's a difference between hunger and cravings. And sometimes we think we are hungry when it's really just a craving. And sometimes we eat because we have nothing else to do. So find something to do. Get creative. Pick up a hobby, right? This podcast for me is my business, but it's also a hobby. Like I combined my business and hobby into one. It's like the best thing ever. But I get to work as much as I want to work. So if I'm bored, I'm going to put together some content and I'm going to create some content. I'm going to put it out there to the world, or I'm going to learn a new skill. And that's something, find something you're passionate about that you love and focus more on that versus losing weight and the fat loss and what am I going to eat next? Like I will tell you guys, I rarely think about my next meal. Because I get to eat whatever I want within that meal, it's like takes it all away. Like the times I'm not eating, I'm not thinking about eating, and it's a great feeling. Also, getting the support from your family is extremely helpful because their life is going to change with you doing OMAD, especially if you're doing your 1 meal in the middle of the day and you're no longer having dinner. I will sit down to dinner with my kids. I have 3 kids, a 4-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old, and I have my husband, and I will make them dinner every night, and I will sit down with them and I will drink my water and we will talk about their day just as if I am eating with them. And if my kids ask me, why aren't you eating dinner? I will say, I'm still full from lunch. I had a big lunch and I am full. They get that. And I think it's a good message. Like if you're full, you don't have to eat. And it's a good thing just to learn over time. We don't have to force feed ourselves just because culturally we are used to having dinner, right? Because I noticed a lot of times I would just eat dinner because socially it's acceptable to eat dinner. I'm not hungry. I ate plenty of food the whole day. I actually ate the amount I should eat already by the time it gets to dinner, but I'm just eating because it's a socially acceptable meal. Also, I found it helps to involve them, my kids, in the dinner process because then it kind of helps me feel like I'm a part of the dinner even though I'm not eating. So each one of my kids, they get a night where they pick what we're going to make for dinner. We go grocery shopping, we get all the ingredients, and then just me and that one child makes the dinner for the whole family, and then they get to be the chef for the night. And so then the next night it's a different child, and they get control over part of like what we eat, and they love it and they feel like I'm a part of the dinner even though I'm not eating the dinner. The next thing is set a short-term goal like 30 days. If you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do OMAD for 30 days, you can do anything for 30 days, and just keep telling yourself that I can do anything for 30 days, or even make it a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, right? And then reevaluate once you get to the end of that goal. Do I want to do this again? What do I want to do from here? What am I going to do, more of this or less of this? What am I going to do? Like, that is the best way to go about it, I have found. Also, as I started to mention before, black coffee while fasted can really help you. And to kind of expand upon what I consume while fasting, I will do that black coffee, right? Ice and water, because the water, it'll dilute it. So it's not bitter. Personal preference, I don't like black coffee hot. It's way too bitter. I don't like it. It doesn't taste good. I don't usually add any sort of sweeteners to my coffee, but sometimes I will. I will use yacon syrup, which is actually like soluble fiber, and there are some benefits to yacon syrup. So sometimes if I want to add some sweetness to it, it's only like 7 calories for a teaspoon, and that's helpful too. I don't like to add non-nutritive sweeteners to my coffee, but if I do, it would probably be that or monk fruit. Also, no cream in my coffee, no milks in my coffee. I don't want to get my digestive system going. I want to be burning body fat for fuel, and I don't want to start the process of digestion, because that's when you start feeling hungry. I can have Diet Coke while fasting. This is controversial. I know, I get it. I'm not worried about it, because the point of fasting is the insulin response. That there's no studies that show that insulin is going to be spiked through Diet Coke consumption, but everybody is different. If you drink a Diet Coke and you feel hungry afterwards, that is your signal. You should not drink that while fasting. If you drink a Diet Coke and you're not hungry afterwards, then it's probably fine. Okay, so that is kind of what I use as a metric. And that same goes for cream in your coffee. Now, if you put cream in your coffee and you don't feel hungry and actually helps you extend your fast, then it's probably fine. For me, I just like to stick to almost 0 calories while fasted, unless I'm using the ketones. Now, with the ketones, they do help a lot. It helps you fast longer periods, and it helps make it easier to fast. So I do it every day, and I get ahead of it, right? I get ahead of the hunger, I get ahead of the cravings, I get ahead of the mood issues, I get ahead of the energy slump by just having the ketones every day. Now, like I mentioned before, I do it with a specific strategy, with like the protein-infused ketone an hour before I break my fast, and then the ketone at the beginning of my next fast. But you can do it any way that works best for you. If you find when you first wake up in the morning, you're starving and this is your time when you struggle the most, have that protein-infused ketone shake at that time, because you can drink it fasted, okay? Go into your meal at your normal time, and then either have another protein-infused shake if you struggle with dinner, or do that nat ketone. And again, I'll put in the description below a special discount for you to get that fast start kit, so you can try the different flavors and you can see how it works for you, right? Avoid alcohol. So this is, I know a lot of people want to be able to drink their wine every day. I get it. I'm one of those people that would love that. But in reality, this is going to hold you back. It will for sure. If you're trying to do OMAD, it will make it very, very hard. You can try it, see how you do. Most likely you'll end up deciding, okay, I really want to hit this goal, so I'm going to cut out the alcohol, and then reevaluate. Remember what I said, after 30 days, if you want to add that back in, or add it back in after you hit your maintenance level. A big tip, I don't think we should be restricting macros while we are doing OMAD, just because having more balance in the types of foods you're eating, the carbs, the proteins, and the fats, is beneficial for your body, especially when you go these long distances fasted. The next thing, okay, is the plant-based lifestyle. I did an entire month of OMAD plant-based because I wanted to try it out. I wanted to try out the vegan lifestyle. I wanted to see how I would like it. And I ultimately decided to go back to eating food flexibility lifestyle and eating animal products because of a couple reasons. First of all, you have to eat a lot of food if you're eating only plants to get the protein and all of that. And so what happened was, with trying to shove all that into one meal, I ended up being very, very stuffed, and I ended up just blowing the rest of my day of just, my body was so full, bloated, and stuffed that I was like, this is not pleasant. It's so much food. If I was eating multiple meals a day, vegan would be great, but it doesn't work very well for me with OMAD. So that is just something to consider. You can try it if you are vegan, if you are plant-based. You're like, well, I want to do OMAD anyway, and I've been doing this lifestyle for a while. I know how to do it. Then there's nothing wrong with that. You definitely can try it out for yourself. Next week's episode, we're going to be talking all about the microbiome, how the microbiome can actually change how you crave food, your results with weight loss, and all different things related to that topic. Thanks guys for watching this one. Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast episode. Stay tuned for the next episode coming soon.